Welcome to The Loop, your weekly dose of all things property management. Today's episode, we sit down with Chris from BIG Realty Sales and Management to talk about surviving the 2008 crash, building a property management company from scratch, and using recurring cash flow to create long-term freedom. We also dive into why most mom and pop investors struggle to scale and why Chris is now focused on larger acquisitions and private funds. Chris, welcome to the show. Welcome back to The Loop, your weekly dose of all things property management. I'm your host, Colin Stewart, and each week we're going to dive into the latest trends, strategies, and stories shaping the property management world. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just getting started, we're here to provide insights, expert interviews, and practical tips to help you navigate the ever-evolving landscape of property management.
Thank you, Colin. I appreciate you having me on. As we were discussing prior to the show, I can see that we're going to get along swimmingly when it comes to talking about all things real estate.
I think so. I'd love to start with your journey into real estate. Talk to me about how you got into it.
I'll keep it very brief so that I don't bore anybody, but honestly, this was a life-changing event for many people in different ways. But I was kind of a late bloomer, wasn't really sure what I wanted to do in life. And so, like most people, I jumped into the corporate world thinking that would solve my problems. And I found that I was absolutely miserable. I was doing real estate radio ad sales back at the day, and everybody around me was miserable. I'm like, does anybody actually like what they're doing? But here we are struggling, right? Because we got to put food on the table. And I was newly married. It was when the towers fell. 9/11 was really my triggering point, if you would. It was like, it happened. I had just gotten married. Like, this was only a year into our marriage. And now all of a sudden we're dealing with this major trauma, so to speak. And I saw how everybody was miserable. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, I have my life ahead of me and it can be changed in an instant. So I made a decision at that point. Either I get out and do what I really wanted to do, or I fold into the corporate envelope for the next, 30 years. So clearly I chose to quit and become unemployable ever since.
I had a similar story, but it took me a little bit longer. And so talk to me about choosing, because I feel like when you're trying to get something off the ground and you have a limited amount of revenue, you're willing to take anything. But at a certain point, there's the switch flips where you're like, okay, we're fed. And the car payment is covered. Okay, so now we have this choice. Like, when did you feel like you had reached that point where you could choose to, say yes or no to customers?
I think you hit the nail on the head right there. I think it was first, we were coming out of desperation from '08. So it was like, we'll take anybody. I dabbled in Philadelphia, the Roxborough, Manayunk area again. I will not touch Philadelphia, man. I won't touch city management. But we tried. It's like, if someone said they had something, we would go out. Now, granted, some of these early management clients became buyers and sellers that did help my business. So some of them were worth picking up for all their stressors. But what you did is you look at your budget and you're like, what do I need? And I lived my entire life like, if I just need more money, then I just go find more business to fill that money. So I'm like, oh, we've got this daycare thing. I'm okay. How much do we need? All right, divide that by the number of cash flow. All right, we need to go find 10 more townhomes. Let's go mail 500 letters and see if we can pick up 10 accidental landlords who don't want to give up their interest rate or can't because at the time they were undervalued. The thing is, I should go back and explain, is when I got into property management early in the '06, '07, after the '08 meltdown, there were a lot of good people with really good credit and income who were stuck in upside down homes. And that became my bread and butter. I marketed to them and said, you are an accidental landlord. This was not your goal, but your credit's too good to walk away. Give us your property for 5 to 7 years. We'll ride it out, manage it, the whole 9 yards, and then we'll let you know when it's time to pull the trigger and sell it.
Amazing. If we fast forward to 2021, semi-retirement, paint the picture. How did you get there? Like, what was the keys to the keys to unlocking semi-retirement? Also, semi-retirement sounds super boring. I can imagine. We're going to foreshadow a bit, but
it is awful. It is the worst.
It is the thing that as an entrepreneur, everybody's like, oh, we want to get to, I want to buy a Porsche and not work after I'm 40, and be so successful, this and this and that. And the closer you get to that, the more you realize, like, I don't actually want that. But tell me how you got to that in the first place, and then we can tackle the other bit.
I'll tell you right now, briefly, in my early 40s, I had just lost my taste for stuff. I'd been chasing things, material possessions for a long time. And all of a sudden I realized, like, just nothing I bought a couple motorcycles midlife. No big deal. They were fun, but it was just like you just I didn't care. Like you just
Yeah.
realize like when you start to realize stuff comes off of factory and I realized like it's not the ownership it's the maintenance. And by maintenance I mean maintenance of the machine, maintenance of the cost, maintenance of the insurance, like maintenance of the storage. Like it all adds up, and then you start to realize what does it really mean. And so when you ask what is retirement, first let's talk about first what is your definition of success?
Mm.
And for me, my definition of success was freedom, meaning that no one's knocking on my door, no one's looking for me. Whether I'm awake or asleep, my life is calm,
Mhm.
peace. The other thing that you have to decide is, what type of lifestyle do you want? So I live beneath my means. I live I have a nice house, but I don't drive a Porsche, as you're saying, because sports cars, if I want to borrow them, I will. And if they're not covered in advertising, I think they're a waste. They're a waste of space. But in 2012, when we started to gain traction in the business, I don't think I was thinking retirement. I think it was right around probably 2017, 2018 that we were making like significant cash flow that like we really didn't have to worry every month where was the money coming from. And I did
Mhm.
not go into lifestyle creep. I kept my expenses down versus like going up. And so we made more money, but my expenses stayed the same.
Mhm.
2020 took us by surprise. We had just launched a Remax division. So I've got some investors working with me to open this office. And literally the month that we opened, they shut, like the month later, we had our grand opening in February. They shut the world down in March.
Brutal.
And we took minimum advantage of the PPP loans. I only asked for what was our payroll, not a dime more. I was like, nope, because I knew the government. I think you step arm in arm with the government, they can change the rules. So I wanted to make sure that I was covered in case they changed and said it's not a debt forgivable loan. But we were right at the beginning of real estate syndication becoming the next hot thing
Mm.
in real estate investing. And a lot of tech people were getting out of it and getting into syndication.
Right.
And so I was working with a couple of syndicators, and COVID happened. And 2 months later, it started doing like, hey, how are you guys making out? How are you guys doing? And my one friend who had just bought a Class C with investors in Richmond, Virginia, not more than 9 months earlier, said they were at a 35% collection. Yeah.
That's gotta hurt.
Now, what am I supposed to say? We're at a 99.5 collection rate. And we maintain that through COVID. And after about 3 months, I was like, we're pretty good. In fact, we had one tenant call, and she was a middle-aged woman. I was in her 40s, and she was like, so, what's it like over there? Like, how many people are holding back? And Stephanie goes, what do you mean holding back? She's well, withholding their rent. I said, none. We have nobody that's withholding their rent. And so she paid that day or the next day. What we did was we simply contacted all our HOA, all of our tenants, and we simply said, we know there's a problem going on right now. We have no idea what we can do. We will waive all late fees for the foreseeable future. All we ask is you communicate with us and let us know. I don't care how late you might have to pay. All I want to know is you tell me that this is what's going on. And people started paying weird dates when they could, but nobody ever got behind. We had 3 tenants in total that got behind. 2 of those 3 were ones we inherited. They were not placed by us.
Hmm.
The one that we did place, they unfortunately ended up having a relapse to alcoholism, being home for 6 or 9 months, and it was a mess. But for everyone else, peace and quiet. And that's when I knew. That's when I knew we had it right. And as I said, Steph, if we can work from behind a screen in Pennsylvania, we might as well work from a screen anywhere in the world. And then so a year later, coming up next month, July 2021 was when we moved to Florida.
Right on. So what happened with the real estate agency, the brokerage, the property management? You leave it in PA and say, you know what, it's fine? Or do you have
Yeah, I mean
people on the
yeah, we have people up there. I built the right team. I put the right people in place. And again, we run small. We're highly leveraged because we can be.
Yeah.
And so Adriana is my lead PM up north. She's basically she became my right hand woman. I taught her everything by like how I did it. She pretty much is about 95% there of what I've done, knowing how to go to court, how to talk to lawyers, how to talk to vendors, how to deal with judges, all of it from soup to nuts. She can place tenants, she can evict tenants, and she's been very, very instrumental in our growth towards the investment side of understanding for me,
Mhm.
encouraging me like, hey, we've got these skill sets. Why are we not putting them to better use now that we know what we know? And I
Mhm.
give her full credit for giving me the nudge for us to start growing in the next
I
development.
love that. So you find somebody awesome to run the PA office. You move to
Correct.
Florida, is
Correct.
semi-retirement, and then just sit idle, play video games, ride your
I
motorcycle.
wish I could say I went on some grand adventure or did this. No, honestly, like for the first time in all those years, like there was more money than month. No one's looking for me. Like when I say I was working 4 hours a week, that's probably about right.
Yeah.
Could I have done more, Colin? Yeah, but I've been running since a freaking eight. And maybe I just needed a little bit of a mental health break. So retirement, when I say retirement to people, what that simply means is there's enough money coming in that I can now choose to do what I want. Do I think retire means sit on a beach and drink pina coladas for 30 years? No, I've been doing this for a couple years. I'm already bat crazy. I need some new challenges, but I
Yeah.
needed a moment to breathe. When
Mhm.
you spend, I mean, all of my 20s, I was in debt. I wish I could say I had a miracle story, but I spent so many years in debt. And then I had high debt because I was leveraging for properties and flipping and all this stuff. And then the market crashes and the whole house of cards comes crumbling down. And then I had to move back in with my parents, with my wife and three kids, which was very humbling, but it turned out to be the best thing ever because I helped my father through his alcoholism and he helped me build this business by just letting me be. And I thanked him immensely for what he did and the fact that if my parents had not really given me a free place to stay, it's the American dream of building a business. It's almost impossible unless one spouse has a freaking steady job because we pay for everything. And I'll tell you right now, health insurance alone is the biggest reason why most people will never leave the corporate world.
Talk to me about how you get into private funds and getting into the investment side of things. Like what was the journey there?
So the journey, and the funny thing was back in 2019, 2020, Michael Blanc was doing a lot of real estate syndication courses, and a couple of my buddies that we were partnering with flew out to Denver and sat there for the course and got the pitch for the $35,000 do it yourself. And I'm like, God, we don't need this, guys. I've been doing management. You're a lawyer. You're this. You're real estate. We can do this on our own. And what happened was I would create a group, like a board, to say, let's go do this. And then what happens, I'd realize I'm the one finding the money. I'm the one finding the properties. I'm the one who's doing all the legal back work. I'm the one who's setting everything up. Like, why am I splitting profits potentially 5 ways when I'm doing all the work? But in
Yeah.
my mind, after having gone through 8 and 09, I was like, well, teamwork makes the dream work, as they keep saying.
Yeah. Money, multiple people
So,
responsible, many hands.
and it failed. And I'm glad it did. So 53 years old, was finally like, Chris, man, if it's not working, it's okay to pump the brakes. Doesn't matter if you spend some money going this direction. This doesn't serve me. And so I took a step back. This was late fall 2025. And I really sat down. I started chat GPT and conversation. I was like, what? And it came down to like, we are not using our talents the right way. We obviously know how to find the right property, source the right tenants. We know how to put reserves together. We clearly know how to keep a value add. What are we waiting on? And that's when I said, you know what? I'm going to put the feelers out to my network of 20 plus years and see, is there even interest in funding me from a private fund? And so far, the feedback has been pretty good. I mean, I just started this last week, so we're getting feedback fairly quickly from people who are like, I'm in. They get that I've been doing this and being a steward of money, which is the most important responsibility we're given.
100%. Chris, I feel like I could keep you on this show forever, and I really appreciate all the extra time you get and the stories you're sharing. If people want to learn more about what you're working on, about the new investment thing, the current property management real estate business, what's the best way for them to do a little research and find out more about you?
You can always Google me at askthebigguy.com. I've been using that moniker for about 20 years. My website, for the most part, is bigrealtymanagement.com. But Ask the Big Guy, if you were trying to find me, if you just Google that, I assure you will find me. And of course, shameless plug, you can always find me on Amazon for my book, You Suck, Now Own It, which you can buy. It was a self-help book that I wrote during COVID, and it is a humorous take on self-help.
100%. Well, Chris, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Well, Colin, thank you. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.
It was a pleasure. And thanks to everybody for listening. We'll catch y'all next time.